Welcome to the Arclif Ventures podcast, where we review, present, and talk about all the biggest business ideas, mindset, psychology, and concepts. My name is Clea, and I'm a social media manager for Arclif Group Company. I'm glad to announce that we are starting today's podcast with a special guest who is Mr. Dirk Landgrebe. He's Chief Technology Officer, Vice President, and Senior Advisor for Arclif Group Company. He has over 30 years of national and international experience as COO, VP, Managing Director, and Institute Director in various mid and large-scale businesses and research institutes like Hirschvogel, American Axle, and Fraunhofer. Mr. Landgrebe is an expertise in management, metal processes, smart factory solutions, and supply chain management. His company is called MSL and brings funds to businesses, startups, and individuals. Mr. Landgrebe is well connected to automotive supply industry and is a specialist in various fields of production and their digitalization. Mr. Landgrebe, it's a great honor to have you on today's podcast. I'm really thrilled for this conversation. I believe we can unveil a lot of secrets and maybe as well strategies that you have come through your experiences, your portfolio, your past business models. I'm really thrilled to have you today on this podcast. How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm really excited for today, and I'm really thrilled. And I also know from my past how much work it takes until we take such a podcast into the box. And thank you very much. I'm a little bit excited. I'm really looking forward for the discussion we are going to have.
Yeah, it's really something new maybe for somebody like you, and you know how much work it is. I know how much work it is, but I do it with passion, and this is what matters most. And what it's also very interesting to me that you have such a long portfolio of business models, experiences, high-level job positions. Could you tell me, how did you get there? What did it take to get there? I believe there's a lot of work, a lot of knowledge, a lot of late hours of working, studying, and so much more. Please tell me a bit.
Yes, first of all, maybe a comment to late hours of working. I never was the person to work 9 to 5. I was always looking for the project and the result of a project. Yeah, this was my driving thing. So how did I get there? You know, my father was an HR consultant, and he was a very conservative guy who believed that you can plan your career. But when I was in the position, after studying, after PhD, when I was in the position, I found myself in a situation where things happened that couldn't be planned. So it was more of the type of picking an opportunity and just getting into that opportunity. Not really sitting there waiting until the best one comes, waiting until an interesting with a good perspective comes. That was actually my start into getting into the career I went through.
Yeah, you really need to be open-minded in order to just perceive the things the right way, because if you miss the opportunity, who knows when is the next one? So you really need to grab onto it, which is really important in any kind of business model. And I love the dedication, because to me, to my mind, is also 9 to 5. It's a nightmare, to be honest. In a previous podcast with Mr. Mattia Kontretz, we were actually discussing how there is a stress of storm and a stress of peace. You're stressing over if you have too many projects or if you're against the deadlines constantly. And then there on the other side is stress of the calm. You basically work 9 to 5. The only thing that changes is the temperature. And to me, myself, I'm also better in the stress of storm. So constantly working against deadlines and getting this kind of pressure, because I believe with pressure, this is the only way how you can actually achieve the higher goals. Just always go beyond the limits.
And if I may add, go beyond the limit always needs the basis that you have a passion to go for it and not only delivering standards. Yes, you have also to be a very good performer. Yeah? Performance is also a key. In my experience and in my history, I always experienced that working in good teams that work well together was also a key factor for success. Until I was in the position to create or to design the teams as I needed them, that was quite a long way. Until then, I was lucky to have teams around me that were in the same mood, in the same direction as I were moving, and we were able to motivate ourselves together.
As well, I did a bit of research on you, of course, and I know that you have been really into automotive industry. And Tell me a bit how everything started and how did you get this passion to go into this kind of business model?
I studied mechanical engineering, and after I finished, there was the first engineers crisis in Germany. So I didn't find a job, and I just continued to stay at the university to do research work, which was quite successful. And after that, I met a great entrepreneur, Mr. Manfred Hirschvogel, who became my first employer. When we had a very short discussion because we understood ourselves very, very quickly on a level other people never would achieve. And I was asking him at that time, still impressed by my father's dedication that you have a planned career, what kind of career can you offer me? And he answered very, very cleverly. He answered, I cannot offer you a career, but I can offer you a set of opportunities where you can develop. And I believe you can develop into very, very high things where you also have fun and can perform. And this went deep into my heart. And this was actually the start where he said, okay, I'm offering you opportunities. And this happened from time to time. Maybe later on we come to talk about our time in China because this was exactly in this way.
Was there any capital that you have started with your business?
No. In Germany, we do have a system where you get a public funding when you study at university or even do vocational education. We call this BAföG. And my parents gave me exactly the maximum sum of BAföG. In those days, it was 850 D-Mark, a German mark, which is today is equivalent to half of it, so 420 euros. And out of that, I financed living, so apartment, food, books, everything, my bicycle.
On monthly basis?
On this basis. The only thing that my parents covered on top of that was whenever I wanted to travel home, because they were living in Düsseldorf, I was studying in Hanover, they were paying for the trip home. That was the only thing they did additionally. From that, I earned everything by myself.
But you started off as 9 to 5.
Never did 9 to 5, to
No?
be honest. No.
That's good.
No, I never did 9 to 5.
Yeah.
When I did my PhD, that was dedicated to the results of the research work. So we even worked during night. Part of my work was measuring the sound metal sample emits when you are tearing it apart. Before it's torn apart, it's like you can hear the little voids growing and then moving together and then even in the end tearing apart. We were measuring those sounds. We had so sensible microphones that we did this during the night because during the day, all the robots and the machining centers and everything else were making interference noises. We couldn't really listen to this part of my project. So we even worked at night. No problem at all. We were dedicated for the final job and when I start for the final result. And when I started at Hirschvogel, I started directly in the management level, and the management level didn't have any time tracking. Never had. So, and I never had time tracking in my life. Oh, this is not true. I had time tracking during my internship in mechanical engineering or in a company where they are making paper cutting and paper coating machines. There I did my internship.
Yeah, I also know that you have been working for American Axle Manufacturing, right? So this is a really big company, so it must have a really big infrastructure, as well over 10,000 employees. And how does this system works? It seems like something incredible to really have a control over all the employees to be a successful and efficient company. How does this go? How was your experience?
For myself, I was not responsible for 10,000 people, or I think that it's even at that time it was even larger. I was responsible like for 500 to 800 people, responsible for the metal forming division in Europe and in Asia. The biggest challenge for me was actually that the headquarters was not close to me. It was in Detroit. And in Detroit, they have a huge administration that is handling everything and believes it has to tell everybody, even in Germany, how to handle and how to manage a company. And this is especially difficult when they do not really understand or appreciate local German laws for labor or habits, how to keep people. The American spirit is different. When they don't have any work or if they are unsatisfied, they just fire the people. and were able to
Whoa.
rehire them. In Germany, it's difficult to fire somebody who has been with the company for a longer time. Is very, very difficult and very expensive. You usually, let's say, if you have an average person, usually you have to think about 1 year salary or maybe even more than 1 year salary to pay to the person to make him leave. Yes.
But this is like a few 10,000s of euros.
Yeah, maybe even more than a 6-digit number. Yeah.
Oh my God,
can be very expensive. So and that was in the time when we had Corona, and we were asked, for example, to make the people leave. We found a compromise, yes, but getting into this administration around the president of American Axle, where he has installed all his buddies who were trying to keep their position because it was very lucrative position. Sometimes not having the skills they required. They were just there and trying to manage me out of the distance. This was my biggest challenge, to be honest. Yeah. On the other hand side, I had a brilliant team in Europe that was really, really working together with me, and we were doing fantastic things. And the biggest success we had at that time was that inside the metal forming division, we were the most profitable division of the metal forming, and even were so successful that we were re-importing goods from Germany into the United States, although in the United States they had equivalent setups for production. But we were cheaper and the quality was better.
Germany. Made in Germany?
Made in Germany, yes.
Made in Germany.
Yes.
But as well, so you mentioned that they could just like fire people in America. So this is how the system works. But they are then left with nothing.
The attitude and the spirit in the United States is totally different. Here in the middle of Europe, usually we have also trained people. So they are going through an apprenticeship, becoming a mechanic, becoming an electrician, a mechatronic, whatever. So they have 2-3 years of education before they really start working. In the United States, we don't have the system. They just hire the people, teach them what to do on the job. So it's on-the-job training, and then let them go and try to get the best out of them. Payment is lower, yes, but the risks that mistakes occur or anything else is much, much higher. And then also the dedication to the company or to the people. What is the company giving to the people? What we say a family business in Germany usually not only means it is owned by a family, but the family is so much involved that they know a lot of the employees by themselves. They know the job, how to be done, and they are getting into the job and trying to get the best out of the company together with the people around them. So this is what we are saying is a family-owned business. We don't see this very much in the United States, especially in the large companies. I don't see this.
So would you say that the most stressful situation in that job position was actually firing people?
No, the most stressful position, please forgive me, American Axle people, the most challenging work was to manage my managers on the distance, because they were sitting in Detroit and they were linked together. And I was sitting in Germany and I was managing my team. I think a brilliant team, and we did very, very good things, very profitable. But I had to kind of balance the power from Detroit with the power we had in our own company. That was the biggest challenge.
Would you think that sometimes people were working against you, or like not taking the orders you gave? Or
no, I more had the feeling that I don't understand the needs of a company in Germany, and that was difficult to explain. Yeah, they were not working. I think they respected me a lot. But they were not working against me. They didn't give me the freedom to decide by myself, because they believe themselves that this is the too expensive way.
What would you say that the other side, so what was the most exciting part of your job position?
The most exciting part was that managing the teams we had in Europe and in China. That was the most exciting bit. The technology was good. It was owned by the team. I didn't pick up too much of the technology. My task was more to create the far vision for that team. Altogether, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plants to develop a vision and how to develop the move of the technology, for example, to Asia, that they were also enabled. to use this technology and produce products in the same quality range and maybe even in a better cost structure than we could do in Europe. That was the biggest challenge. And I enjoyed this very, very much.
Is there any shocking or entertaining story that you have gone through your career, not just in that company, American Axle, but through all of it?
I've been in a responsible position for production for over 25 years. The most shocking moments in those respects is always when a fatal accident occurs within my responsibility. This were the most shocking moments in my life, because I always have to consider, why did this happen? Could I have done anything to avoid this? And there were very heavy accidents. These were the most shocking ones, and I don't think it's nice to talk about them. We can talk about that maybe in a later podcast, because a fatal accident leaves people behind with injuries that will travel along with them for their whole life. So these were the most shocking one. A very interesting, or I think a funny story, was when I was awarded, or when I was announced as the general manager for the Chinese setup for Hirschvogel. There was, the routine meeting with company's manager once a year in March, where you discuss your goals, your achievements, the bonus, maybe salary increase, and maybe even some thoughts about future steps in the career. In 1995, I asked the question, well, what do you think not 1995, in 2000, in the year 2005, I asked the question, what do you think where I will be in 5 years? So first of all, Mr. Hirschvogel was a little bit angry and said, wow, in this discussion, this is my question. Where do you want to be? And I said, okay, I would like to develop a bit further out of the research and development. I'm seeking for an opportunity. And then he said, well, I can offer you a technical position in one of our international plants. At that time, we had a plant in China. We had a joint venture in China, and we had an American plant. And then he said, well, we are planning to build our own factory in China, and I need a technical manager who I can trust. Would you be interested? And I said, okay, this I cannot answer right away. I need to discuss this with my family. I discussed this with my wife. And a month later, I came back to him and said, okay, we tried with all the kinds of information. We bought books. We were trying to find in the small internet that was available at that time. That was 2005. The iPhone 4 was not even published. So
I was born in 2005, so...
So there was very, very little information about China. Said, okay, well, is there a chance that I can travel to China and have a look if I can imagine to live in this environment with my family and do my job properly? And he said, wow. That was the day when he actually fired the existing general manager. And he said, if you want to have the job, then you're not only the technical manager, but I would make you to the general manager. But if you want to do it, you have to go there as soon as possible, because today we fired the existing general manager and I need a replacement.
Just like this?
Just like this.
Oh my God.
So I went to China the second time in my life. And I was traveling with a manager who was usually doing the contact between the headquarters and the Chinese plant. We were traveling through Shanghai. There is a lifted highway which is going through the city, and you're driving more than 45 minutes, maybe today it's an hour, where you have skyscrapers where each skyscraper is taller than the tallest building either in Frankfurt or in Berlin. So. And I was saying to myself, oh no, you're not doing this. You're not doing this. But then I found the task was interesting. The team was good. And I decided with my family together to do it. And then we went to China then 2006 and lived there for 4 years.
So you speak Chinese?
A very little bit. Yeah. The environment we grew up or we lived in was around the French and German school. And there were, let's say, 50% of the people we had as our neighbors were either German or French, with kids in the same age, and the language of the road was English. And also inside the plant, I learned a little bit of Chinese. I know enough Chinese to actually understand what my team was talking about when they switched the language. And they were respecting me because I could understand what they were talking about. They were always trying to use it as a secret language, but I can interrupt that by making comments into their direction. So they were afraid of talking Chinese in front of me ever since. So, but this is very little. I cannot discuss. I cannot do small talk.
Can you say something for our podcast?
Well, for the podcast, is a ni hao, is the hello.
Hello,
how are you?
yeah.
This is the most known one. And for a German, I can order a cold beer. So ich bin da bitte. It means I would like to have a cold beer. Actually, maybe I even pronounce it in the wrong way because
I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know Chinese.
in the German language or even in the English language, the pronunciation is on the meaning of the sentence. In Chinese, it is on the syllable that you're talking, and changing only the pronunciation of a syllable a little bit changes the meaning. So that's a totally different, and that is very difficult to learn.
Because I know their letters have like, they can use them for different sentences, but they're still the same. It's kind of confusing. However, let's leave the Chinese there. Yeah, so you're a CEO of MSL, a company you created with Neoclis Athanasios Lazanas. How did you create it, and how did you come to the point where you just connected with Mr. Neoclis Athanasios Lazanas?
Okay, let's start with a meeting with Neoclis Lazanas. Actually, the contact comes through my brother, who is also part of the Arclif Group, and he owns already actually two of the companies. He's the CEO. He's a CEO of Fabile and the Blackwood Partners.
Mr. Dirk Landgrebe.
Yeah,
yeah,
Mr.
we
Per
had
Landgrebe.
the second podcast.
Yeah. He is my brother. At a time where I found myself stuck somehow in the dead end at Hirschvogel, he asked me whether to become an advisor, which I found actually at that time very interesting, because I was also looking for something. And when it became into the hot phase in the discussion with my old employer, he asked me whether I would be interested to become an interim CEO for one of the projects they were running. So there was the chance to get out of Hirschvogel and to actually pick up a job as a CEO for one of the big projects. We worked that out. We were very, very successful. Unfortunately, the project partner, they decided by themselves not to transform their plants into and to give their employees future at that point of time, but to close the plants, dismiss all the people, and now we found out they are selling just the real estate. Yeah, we had a different plan for that, but the coordination or the cooperation together with Arclif Group people was very, very good. And I asked them whether I could actually even join Arclif, as not only as an advisor, but also to become a member of the board, become a VP, and do my business also through the Arclif Group. And then I met Nix through that occasion. And he said, yes, the cooperation was very good. Let's do it. Then we decided to found a company together through which I will deal with all Arclif topics in the area of Germany, and through which I can bring in my experience in the automotive and manufacturing industry. So this is the expertise I'm bringing with myself. I have been involved in many projects for taking over other companies, because the metal forming industry is facing big challenges. Metal form products mainly go into internal combustion engines, so be it pistons, connecting rods, crankshafts, be it gearbox shaft. They're all forged products, and they all will go away.
What is happening with this industry? Because I have also heard that Europe is facing some really big economic problems, like in general, like, I don't know, at least in Slovenia, I see that the demand for car production parts is very low. And when VW has some problems, so Volkswagen, then kind of everyone has some problems. So what is going on?
What is going on? That is twofold. Already since 2016-17, the amount of cars produced in the middle of Europe is declining. So it's constantly, there was even a big dip during the Corona crisis, but in general it's declining. Yeah? It's becoming less and less and less due to several reasons. The main reasons at the moment is the cost for labor is too high. The cost for energy is very high. Bureaucracy is high. So founding a plant in in the Middle European countries takes you at least 2 to 3 years to get an approval, and then to build the plant, then you have to plan it and build it. So that takes about 4 to 5 years to actually, from the idea to have a plant there until you can earn money. This is far too long. In China, we got the approval for our plant within 3 to 4 months. And then it took us less than 1 year to have a plant built, machines set up, and machines producing products that we can sell to a customer. So there was already a cash flow back into the company. Together with lower raw material prices, lower energy costs, lower employee costs or HR costs, this makes the location in the middle of Europe too expensive to invest into the future. The big advantage is the high education level of the people and the infrastructure that we are having. Yeah, it is really good. Whether it's energy distribution, whether it's roads or railways or academic training, vocational training, this infrastructure is just, I think, the best in the world is in the middle of Europe. Other areas are catching up, but this is still the case. But still, if you are thinking economically for a company, it is too expensive and too complicated.
So in China, would you say there is also cheaper labor, but do people then live a good lifestyle there? Because I know here the prices, because of the inflation, have gone so up, but the paychecks kind of remain the same, and that's like, I feel like people don't want to work anymore. I don't know. It's
really a matter of your expectation that you have. When I started in 2005 in China, they had a certain level or standard of living. Yeah, for us maybe unacceptable, for them already good. And what happened in China in those days was the government was trying to make every Chinese person feel every year when they had the Chinese New Year, they are looking back at the recent year. But the result always must be that they say, okay, I have improved my life. In which way ever. I have moved into an apartment. I can buy better goods for food. I have a job and I have increased my salary. Whatever you think, I could buy a car, or I have access to a motorcycle, or. There are so many things where people can improve their lives. And this feeling actually lasted until at least the beginning of the Corona crisis. Yeah, there was the first time when they said, okay, now it's getting worse and I feel unhappy. But this is just a matter of level. Here in Europe, we have a very high living standard. We are very wealthy, and we are used to this wealth, and we even want to increase it. So this is very difficult to achieve. So that's the difference, I think. And even if they get less money, doesn't mean that they're less happy.
That's crazy. I think it's a mindset shift. We need so much more. People are really, really greedy. Like they're never happy with what they have, and this is kind of a really big problem in today's society. We want more and more and more. And the thing, for how long do you think this can go on? The crisis is getting bigger and bigger, and the prices are going so much up. What is the next that happens?
I believe personally that we have come over the tip of the wealth in the middle of Europe. So the wealth will decline. People will earn less money. The most one who will fear this is the lower income areas, because then maybe the financing of living may become critical. Yeah, you have to buy food, you have to have accommodation, you want to have at least a certain level of comfort. Finance this may become even more difficult. And the first ones who will notice this will be the lower income areas. I'm not really sure if the current governments in middle of Europe, namely the large ones like in Germany, Switzerland, France, Poland, Italy, Spain, maybe even Great Britain, if they have the power to turn this, because we need to have a different attitude as well as in expectations for life for every individual, as well as for the governments, how to not to continue with the system that we have, because I believe this has proven it is overruled and we need something very new, different approach, but this is not happening. I'm not seeing this.
As well, you have switched from automotive industry to finance business model. I would say it's a big switch, because how does it feel like going from automotive and something completely engineering wise to something really commercial, having really you really have to be like careful with what you say, how you present yourself. It's completely different business model.
Well, maybe the step is smaller than it might see from the outside. Yeah. So what we are offering at MSL right now is similar to what we offer at Arclif. So financing, investments, process cost optimization, M&As, IPOs. But on the other hand, also all the experience that I can bring into with my teams, that I can bring into companies of the automotive industry. Yeah, with be it on the operational level, on the technical level, supply chain, and so on. In the recent years, let's say in the last decade, I was already in a top management position where I had to think about the future of the units I was leading and about how to move this big body of company into something that is future resistant, especially when you have the challenge that the internal combustion engine is moving away. The total amount of cars being produced in Europe is declining. This gives double pressure on the industry where I was working. And we were always looking to find a step out of this circle downwards. We were looking at companies that we might buy, that we might develop, and were buying companies. We were doing due diligences. Mergers and acquisitions was part of my life all the time. So this is not new for me. Becoming the higher your manager you become, the more responsibility you also carry for monetary topics. Thinking about optimizing the financial structure of business unit became so eminent important for me. 70-80% of the time I was spending work on this topic. Engineering helped me to understand when somebody was asking for investment, whether it was worthwhile or not, very quickly. Maybe I was even tough, but because I understand a lot of those things. My biggest hobby in that field was what we call the project of a smart factory. So transforming from analogous controlled manufacturing into something that was connected together and was digitally supported, but not only because we wanted to digitize it, but to become smart. Smart means cleverly organized. Maybe if the smartest solution was a pile of paper, then it was a pile of paper, but that developed. So we always had to rethink those things. And we set up quite complex, digitally driven manufacturing lines where we are very proud of because they worked very efficient. And only recently, let's say during the last 5 years, we actually were understanding roughly what artificial intelligence can offer into that, because as a scientist, usually you want to have a dedication, how things, what is the rule, what is the formula, why this thing is happening. Artificial intelligence actually gives you the opportunity. You are asking a computer a question or giving him a task, and he's coming with a solution that solves your task, but maybe you don't even know how. So that's a new approach. So that was my hobby.
That's good that you combined actually both, and you have then focused just on the one that actually helped you to get in this business model. It's a really good combination.
If you're a research and development manager, it is far away. But if you are a COO, you have to think about investments, you have to think about inventory levels and how to organize inventories. You have to think about complex manufacturing lines, and this is all monetary driven.
How do you contribute to Arclif Group? You're an advisor, but as well vice president. So what are actually your tasks, and what has been so far the most important one?
As an advisor, actually, it is the idea that we open business ideas to the Arclif Group management. So this is, I think, the most important part that I can do. And my special role is that I can understand very quickly the technology behind an idea and whether it is suitable for investment or not. The Arclif Group is investing in outstanding people and outstanding opportunities or occasions. Doesn't have to be a technical topic, can be anything else.
What about with MSL? What was the greatest project?
MSL, the greatest project we are right into, actually it's the second largest in my life, is just in birth, is that we have a concept at Arclif, where MSL is part of the whole work, where we have a concept to transfer an existing industry area, including their employees, from maybe an automotive-based business into circular economy center in the middle of Europe. This is something that we have worked out. We are already offering this to some of the OEMs or first years that are struggling in their future work because the number of cars are being reduced that are being sold. So also the suppliers may decide to close down their factories, and they're facing the challenge what to do with the employees and with the real estate, with the equipment, with the knowledge that's still inside of such a company, even if the market breaks away. So new rules in Europe, they actually give the duty that you're using a certain quota of recycled material. At the moment, there is still enough capacity there, but the need will increase rapidly. So there is not enough operational resources. There is not enough people who are trained. Connected to this will be also a training academy that is doing academic and vocational training in the field of circular economy. In Germany, there has been, at the end of 1923, they published a new regulation on circular economy. Trainings for apprentices are being revealed and how they should look like. This needs to be further developed, even in combination with Fraunhofer, with universities.
Pretty a lot. It's amazing to see that how many experiences you have, and I think you really need to be constantly thinking 100%. Oh, I need to be careful for this. How do you combine all of these responsibilities with your personal life? What makes you still focused and disciplined? Do you also take then some time for yourself beside business?
Well, actually, the backbone of my life has always been my family. So I'm married, have 2 children. They are already grown up in a phase where they are orienting for their life now. So trying to find the education they need for their life.
Are they also in automotive industry?
No.
Or what have
Oh,
they?
actually, yes. My oldest daughter, she was working at Hirschvogel as well in the field of the production system.
Okay.
So my younger daughter, she is more into the animals that we have. We own 4 horses, and she is going into those. She is taking care of them a lot. She is studying at the moment, but she has now decided not to continue with the study. She wants to become a veterinary medical person, and she is preparing to get into that education right now. So that's why I'm saying they're in the phase of orienting for their life, and this is what we are working at right now. In such an environment with the animals, there's always something to do that doesn't have to do with the animals. I don't have enough time to really ride by myself. I have done this in the past, but I noticed that if you want to get connected to a horse, you need to have a personal connection to the horse. Otherwise, the horse they are so intelligent. They notice when you are not with your complete brain concentrating on it, then it's doing whatever it wants.
So this is basically same with the business. When you're not controlling it, that's when it goes sideways.
It goes everywhere.
Yeah.
So because I was too much involved in business, I gave this up. But I also noticed that we need a lot of support from the background. So there's always something to repair. There's always something to do technically that can wait for a week or maybe has to done at once. But always on the weekend, I'm trying to get out and doing all the things I need to get done, and helping them in order to feed animals and treat them and so on and so on. So this is giving me a lot of relaxation, and I love doing all these handcrafted works at the weekend. Here I'm in business, this is a nice desk and everything, the environment is nice. The environment on the weekend is completely contrary to that because I'm outside usually the whole weekend and doing things.
That's good, because some people are workaholics and they literally cannot shut their brain down after work. But honestly, I couldn't do this work or any other if I didn't have my own activities. And that's why it's really important to have this kind of spiritual and mental acknowledgement that you still need to take some time off. But this does not mean that you can take now over a few weeks, of not thinking and progressing, because that's when it just goes sideways. You still gotta be dedicated, but prioritize your mental and physical health. It's a combination of everything. There needs to be harmony. Without it, there is nothing. Was there any unexpected fact you faced when entering this business model?
Maybe the approach we are having for the environment I'm in is unconventional, and to bring the message to actually persuade potential clients that what we are offering is something very special, because within a very short period of time we can bring money into a company, either by supporting them in a process cost optimization or by investing money combined with some strategic advice. This is very unique. And usually the environment where I'm coming from, they are traditionally linked to traditional consulting companies and traditional bank financing. They don't accept anything else. So anything out of this scope is suspicious. And this is, I think, the biggest challenge we are having right now, to make the industry where we see is declining, where there are still good ideas inside and maybe the potential to get out of the spiral going down. But you need an infusion of money to get this transported into that industry. I think that is the challenge we are facing right now.
But this is what makes MSL and Arclif Group so unique, that you are literally providing really high quantities of finances to the businesses. So
and
quickly.
Very quick.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we're talking about 3 months. If we don't do it in 3 months, then you don't do it ever. But we can do it within 3 months. The way we are bringing investors to the customers, and then they meet each other, they know each other. This is completely different to the approach that you're going through a bank financing, which we can bring the investors to the client. They can learn, they can meet each other, they can change each other, and they are making the contracts. So this is a completely different approach, and it is still difficult to make it understandable that this is a very, very unique way.
Everything's so interesting to me how for the banks, us new generations, we are looking for different kinds of investments, or like even the money, it's circulating now a lot in cryptocurrencies and crypto markets, and it's crazy how fast this is developing. And I think all the time there are just new ways coming up. But I believe, as you mentioned, providing funds so quickly from actual people, not banks, which are, I think, really corrupted. It's way more convenient. You know who you're getting the money from. You talk to him, you get to know him, he listens to you, he knows your project and so on. Because if you lose against the bank, so their funds, they're just gonna take anything that you have with them.
Not only that, also the process to get the money from the bank is very complex. Yes, you have your consultant in front of you, but he has to present your project in a bigger meeting, and then there's a lot of managers who then vote whether to invest into this thing or not. Then it is very difficult to get through this whole process to get the money approved for the conditions you need. That is also a challenge, besides what you said.
Well, what would you say is the greatest skill an individual has to acquire in order to be successful in their business model?
For me, it was always that you need to find the thing where you are good at. You need to find it. It's individually different. You are good at different things than I am.
Yes,
yeah,
100%.
And then you need to have fun in what you're doing. If you're not good at, or you don't have fun, you have to pretend, and you're spending energy into being somebody else you are not actually. And this energy is slowing you down in comparison to your competition or the people left and right to you. So find that position and try not to pretend. Be yourself naturally. If it's not naturally, then maybe it's the wrong direction. Please try something else.
Would you say that this is also the advice you would give to people outside, or is there something else that you would like to tell them?
Well, this is the general advice. I don't want to I don't want to get people into copying other people. Yeah, I think this is not the right thing, because every individual is different. We have to accept the people as they are, without pretending. And we have to go into maybe some compromises. If this is a person where you don't come along with, then maybe this will be not a cooperation. But most of the time I found people where we get along very, very good, and we find the ways how to cooperate. And then everybody brings something on the table. Then it's not 2, but everybody owns 2. Actually, it's 4. So you bring something, I bring something. We put it on the table. We can combine, and we say, okay, we both own it. Then you own 2 and I own 2. That's 4. So that's the picture I love, because that shows how important it is to cooperate and to to try to get together.
Yeah, I agree 100% because I believe you always need some kind of partner to help you on your business path or even lifestyle. It's a combination because I think you can do everything on your own. It's very hard. I mean, even for the podcast, but it's a lot of work to be done. But if you, for example, have somebody that tells you, oh, use this music, oh, edit this section, or like, oh, let me adjust the lighting, change the exposure. If you have people to work with you, it's way easier. This podcast, I'm actually managing my own, anything that's combined with filming, lighting, editing, posting, writing the script, scenario, it's everything. I like it because it's challenging, and challenging means that you're progressing every day. When you need to think about so many things, your brain develops and it's constantly ready for new challenges, and I'm constantly thinking about other things as well. Oh wait, I need to edit this, but wait, then I need to go take this and this and this, and I like it because it's an environment where you can grow. As Mr. Mattia Contretz said in previous podcast, if you don't grow, you die. It's in business and in life. As long as you're progressing, you're gonna be happy and you're gonna be in a higher position. There are so many benefits, but there is one minus. You need to go out of your comfort zone. And this is what most people don't like. And that's exactly why I believe it's important to invest in outstanding businesses and individuals as your companies do. And this is the core. This is how you can just grow. Thank you for this amazing conversation. I believe we unveiled a lot of important facts to be careful about, even in business, in lifestyle. And with every podcast, I feel like we all learn very much. And I'm really grateful for your visit at our Arclif Ventures podcast.
Thank you for having me here also, and I'm also thankful for being part of this team. And I'm also looking forward to, as we discussed even before, the continuation of this podcast here. The contents that we will identify, now we have introduced ourselves and what we do, and we will then bring some content into the podcast series. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.